Well, good morning, and I'm Sue Hutchins, and I'm here once again with Iowa Prison Perspectives, a collaboration between Living Beyond the Bars of Iowa, Iowa Justice Action Network, and Iowa Cure. This series of interviews is to inform you, the public, about the prison system in Iowa from the perspectives of people who've been incarcerated, people who love someone who's incarcerated, people like myself who are advocates, and people who have previously worked for the Department of Corrections. If you want to reach me, I can be reached at iowaprisonperspectives@gmail.com, and that's iaprisonperspectives@gmail.com. I really would like this to be an open discussion for people to be able to share your comments, whether you agree or disagree with what is being said here. Because like I said, the purpose of this is to inform you, the public, about what prison is really like in Iowa. Today we're fortunate, very fortunate, once again, to have someone who spent his career working in the prison system in Iowa, hands-on, with a variety of different programs that he designed and with a variety of different incarcerated persons. One of the ways I met him from doing conferences and had him as a speaker a number of times. One of the things that we did together was we were on a team to draft a bill to change the commutation process in the state of Iowa. And that bill can be found in this particular book, Bleak Walls, Bright Minds, and it's available on Amazon. You can also listen to it if you just Google Sue Hutchins, or if you Google Bleak Walls, Bright Minds. Myself and two other people who are members of Living Beyond the Bars read parts of this book out loud. This is 27 lifers and the bill that we wrote to try to get people who we believe belong out of prison, instead of doing life sentences. So with that, I will turn it over to Tim and let him tell you about his career.
Well, first, thanks, Sue. Great to talk to you again. Great to see you. It's always fun collaborating and doing these kind of things and making the public aware and educating the public. And this Iowa Prison Perspectives, getting such a wide variety of people from all different angles is very important. And many people don't know these kind of things, what them perspectives are coming from and why. So this is tremendous. I love it. I appreciate you asking me to do this. I started in corrections at the Anamosa State Penitentiary back in 1982. I spent 36 and a half years working on in the Iowa Department of Corrections, and actually working with the Department of Corrections for over 42 years. So I started out as a correctional officer, and when you start off as a correctional officer, a young correctional officer, you want to make sure people know that you're not going to be a pushover, and you might be a little stricter than most, and a little less forgiving, a little less, let's talk about this and let's just lock them up kind of thing. And anyway, working through that during the 6.5 years that I was there, I was also on some special teams like the gas team and different kind of CERT teams and cell extraction teams, that kind of thing. And so in 1988, I had the very fortunate, looking back, opportunity to go to Iowa Prison Industries, and I got hired on to Iowa Prison Industries as a technician. And long story short, I kind of worked my way through the ranks of that to supervisor, and then I started supervising 4 out of the 8 shops at Anamosa, developing the HVAC filters and system for helpman training. Iowa Prison Industries, by the way, it's a self-supporting organization. It's not tax supported in any way. It's there to help bring skills to offenders in all prisons. In all prisons, but we've had some hiccups with some things that we'll talk about after a bit. But anyway, I had that opportunity then of working with these offenders 8, sometimes 10 hours a day. And at the time, I didn't realize what that opportunity would do to me and how it would change me as a person. So, you know,
Yes.
we were getting these individuals and we're training them. And, one instance I can, hundreds of instances, I should say, but one in particular, this kid came in as a 18, 19-year-old kid. He was a gang member, skinhead, I believe. Anyway, bald headed, really cocky, really, I'm tough on this and that. By the time this individual left incarceration and left prison industries, I had witnessed this guy transform into quite a very good young man and a very sincere, heartfelt, hardworking. Prison industries, one things they concentrate on, soft skills, punctuality, really getting into a specific skill. And in this particular case was assembly to begin with. And then he promoted his way up to working on brake presses and, uh, just technical computerized equipment. And so he had worked his way up and did his thing. And we were sending people out with a certificate of he had 10,800 hours of training on a brake press using this kind of equipment and computer programming. And so with that, as I grew into it, I realized that we really needed to get a credential, um, a good solid credential. And so we developed a technical publishing company program that was an educational, it was on the job training, but it was also combined with education. It was combined with materials that they would work with, read, do testing. So they would understand, if you bend a piece of sheet metal, for instance, it's going to have so much spring back. If the sheet metal is a little darker, it's got more carbon content and gives them that skill level. So then a group of us got put together and we developed and worked on trying to get this turned into an apprenticeship program through the U.S. Department of Labor. So we had worked with them, showed the U.S. Department of Labor Office of Apprenticeship, Greer Sisson and her team here in Iowa, and they loved it. They went for it. We brought it into Anamosa State Penitentiary as a pilot program. And then that program was so successful, not only in the state, but United States wide. Started doing some kind of talks and presentations, even down in Nashville, talking about it. So our Department of Corrections Director, Jerry Bartriff at the time, which I seen Jerry's interview, and fantastic. What a fantastic interview. That guy I love today. I can honestly say I love him. He's just a super guy. Sandra Smith, who ran the education department, she was instrumental in getting this program going, and we wanted to take it statewide in all 9 facilities. We started the program in Anamosa in 2014, took it statewide July 15th, I believe, in 2015. So anyway, it became very successful, and it's I think some statistics came out just a few years ago or like last year that the recidivism rate in the United States is still upwards around the high 60s return rate. And then I believe I was down in the mid 30s, somewhere in there. But the people going through this apprenticeship program, grabbing that credential, and I'll speak on that credential here in a second, but they were doing, I believe it's less than 19 or 18% recidivism rate. So that is a huge, cutting it in half,
Mm-hmm.
essentially. That's huge. So an apprenticeship program is through the U.S. Department of Labor Office of Apprenticeship. It's a credential. It's an employer-driven model that couples on-the-job training, and you do educational bookwork to complete a specific skill and become a journeyman. You complete your hours of training, you complete all your educational material, and it's just a great, and you earn as you learn. So there is no, at the end, you don't pay a huge, fee that you owe for years to come. So um, it's 100% guarantee for an employer that that person as a journeyman has that U.S. Department of Labor Office of Apprenticeship signed by the Secretary of Labor certification credential that they can take anywhere in the United States and the UK and other places. So we thought that was very important, and the main goal of the whole program when we designed this was to less recidivism rate, less victims, um, less crime, higher success rate in gainful employment. That's the key, gainful employment. So anyway, so I want to go back a little bit and talk about me working with these offenders in the shops and how they affected me. I mean, they were starting when I was young, working first starting out. I was very hesitant of listening to them and having them teach me things because I didn't know if it was the way they wanted me to do it. The more I worked with them, the more I worked uh, with some of these Class A felons and found out that Class A felons are pretty much ones that really try to keep the prison calm. They help you police it because
Yes.
that's their life. That's their living, and they want to keep it
Oh,
that way.
that's
Yeah,
their
that's
hope.
yeah, exactly. It's their hope. And um, so while I'm working with them and I see them grow and I develop a passion to want to help and to see their appreciation on people that want to help them. I mean, there's many conversations I've had where you really get to know an individual, you get to know their feelings, how they grew up, what kind of environment they had, the environment looked like before they were arrested, what the environment looked like as they were arrested and going through their court hearings and having to listen to victim impact and that kind of thing. You kind of really understand that whole scheme of things. So when I say I had that very unique job opportunity, I mean it was very unique. Not very many people get to work with offenders 8-10 hours a day and get to really know them and watch them grow. 95% of the people that come out of prison today, or 95% of the people that go into prison are released. So the goal and the passion is to help rehabilitate, train, gainful employment, family community, gather family communication back into their lives. And because some have lost, not all of them, but some lost their communication because people get embarrassed or for whatever it is. But being incarcerated is nothing to be embarrassed about when you do the things that I've seen people do in rehabilitating themselves and working on themselves and taking advantage of the different things that the Iowa Department of Corrections offered to help better themselves. So, um, we take a look at a lot of things, and looking back, I guess, is the one thing that warms my heart the most, that I had that opportunity to work with these individuals. I'll talk a little bit about lifers and Class A felons, and to get to know them, get to see them grow. I mean, there's several that started in early 80s as I did. And boy, I can tell you, I'm a big advocate for justice, criminal justice reform. Um, Now, before I really get into that, I also am a big advocate for victims impact and for taking care of our victims and helping them. I look at it in a little different perspective, how I can help them victim impact people and that have been victimized and their families and their loved the people with loved ones being locked up and gone from their family for a while. But my view of helping them is to not lock them up, throw the key away, and leave them until they get out. My view is if we can train them, we can get them gainful employment, we can change the personality, we can change, and people change. I've seen it over and over and over again. Not all, but a strong, close to 100% can. But I would say if we can get those so they don't victimize anybody at their hands ever again, they get out, they get gainful employment. To me, that is honoring victims and their families because they're being released and now we don't have to worry about them. Now, the people and the victims' families, I'm sure, are still going to worry about them. They're still going to worry about that. Totally understand. But actions of the individual after they're released and they become a returned citizen is what finally will be able to hopefully release that kind of fear from that victim and their family. So, I've had victims in my family as well. Um, I've forgiven the individual that victimized my family member, and um, I heard a saying once that uh, hating someone is like drinking poison and expecting them to die.
Yes.
And I've always remembered that and thought, boy, hating someone really kind of slowly kills you. It eats you up inside. So forgiveness is the better way to go and that kind of thing. So anyway, so when it comes to the youth lifers, I really believe in my own heart. Well, I've helped youth lifers, numbers of youth lifers after they've been released to get gainful employment, housing, that kind of thing. And I've actually stood up in a wedding. They've asked me to be in their wedding. A few individuals have done that. And I'm very honored and humbled by that. So I see these individuals are doing very well. And they were life without parole at one time. The only thing I would really like to see with youth lifers is right now it's at the age of 18. And Sue, you know more statistics better than I do as far as when the brain matures, but I know it's not 18. Uh, why do we have set things for drinking and smoking at the age of 21? Brain hasn't matured yet. I think it's beyond that. I think it's 23 or 25. I would love to see, and I know, different places and organizations are working on trying to change that age. I do believe that victims, when they see somebody get life without parole, they expect that life without parole. But then if a law could ever come around that we would abolish that life without parole and have a life with the possibility of parole, or maybe even a version of picking both, like a very heinous crime that kills mass shootings or kids or whatever, life without parole, and then the commutation goes with them. But there is reform out there. Some states are doing it. Massachusetts is doing it. and other states. So I hope the state of Iowa and the legislators will take note, listen to both sides of that issue. But with that, I guess, you know, the one thing to switch up a little bit and go to educating the public. When I was doing this apprenticeship coordinator statewide, I would go to many conferences. As you know, Sue, I've been to many of them, and the Future Ready Iowa Governors conferences, that kind of thing, and speak at those and go to workforce development and working with them. But I also would go to company, and about every 3 months or quarterly, like corridor companies in Iowa City, Cedar Rapids, and different places of the state would get together as a group, and then they would talk about some things. I would speak about the apprenticeship program, but not only the apprenticeship program, the education program and the Department of Corrections, and then also about the people that not necessarily are in the program, but have done certain certified training throughout their states, their stay at the prison system. So it's truly an untapped workforce that is tremendous for employers, and we would have employers come in and watch them do work while they're doing it. We'd have conferences at the Anamosa State Penitentiary, Mount Pleasant, and different other places like that. Come in, we'd talk to them, take them down, show them. Had one individual say, I want to know when he gets out. J.W. Bell out of Cedar Rapids. And 7 years later, that individual got out, and I called him. He personally went to the halfway house, picked him up for the interview, took him for a job tour, and did the interview. So those kind of things, just educating the employers on, and there's many different employers that have checked the box or different things that they don't even give them a chance. Many of them changed. Some of them are still pretty strict on it. But so we just continue to educate those people and let them know what's going on there. So that's kind of what my story was. I when I retired in 2017, after about 36 and a half years, I was asked by the director, Bartriff, if I would be on the Iowa Prison Industries Board on behalf of Department of Corrections. So I did that for 6 years. So I basically had 42 years plus in, and I guess I do want to talk a little something more about, let's talk, the terrible, heinous crime of the murders for the 2 staff members at Anamosa and the impact that had on the Department of Corrections as a whole, on the offenders, on the victims' families. First, I want to say, I've always had my deepest sympathies, donated and helped the family out as much as we could, because part of our own family got killed on the job, and that was a very tough time to go through. I understand the need for the Department of Corrections to slam on the brakes. They had to stop everything. Everything has to be reviewed. And excuse me. Oh, sorry. Everything has to be reviewed, and it has to be looked at, and it has to be drilled down and investigated. And we lost some critical training that really helped many offenders upon returning citizens and getting gainful employment. And that was our metal furniture division, which there's powder coating in that metal furniture division. There's welding, expertise welding. There's metal bending and forming and shearing, tube bending, shearing, custom top building in wood areas, and drafting and developing blueprints for that, and assemblies. And I could go on and on and on about the training that created and did. Then you could talk about the same thing with our custom wood shop. We lost that. I do think, in my own opinion, that they closed those down. I would have loved to seen them close them down, save all the equipment, evaluate even in 5 years, and where are we at today? And I've always had if there's a will, there's a way. I always wanted to be a barrier bulldozer. You got to get through these barriers, and there are ways to do these kind of jobs with the larger equipment. I mean, if you had to screen off people to work in the areas, vet them so they're absolutely zero people that are working there that had violent crime background or whatever, but they eliminated it, and they eliminated custom wood shop, and they eliminated Fort Madison furniture, which was very devastating to the training programs that Iowa Prison Industries and the Iowa Department of Corrections offered. And then they sold the equipment and liquidated. So many of the focus on prison industries today is like still your license plates, your printing, stuff you don't have to use a whole lot of tools with, signing, and they were able to work around keeping those. Sewing, that kind of stuff is all still going on as far as making clothes and different things like that. But I still think there's a hope down the road that these types of businesses can reopen. Not businesses, but training opportunities, I should say, to reopen and give that kind of quality. There's a lot of programs that outside companies need help with, and there's a vetting program and a whole list of things that they've got to get through to have this private sector work, to have inmates used for that, and they get a comparing wage. So private sector gets a wage of somewhere, it's whatever's competitive in that field for that particular job that's on the streets. So they get that same thing, and then they get that all drawn down. They pay for stay and different things like that, and they still get a fair amount of money out of that, more than what the traditional industry is. But traditional industry, you're looking at, now I'm going to say this from 7 years ago because I've been gone for a while, but we would have people start at maybe 61 cents an hour, work their way up in longevity. Work in their year, they get like 3 cents longevity, and they would go from 61 to maybe 72 cents an hour. And then after a year, it'd be 75 cents an hour. And after a year, they get 3 more cents. So some have worked there for many, many, many years, and they're up around $1 something an hour. So, and they do get time and a half after 8 hours. So anyway, what that wage is today, it's a very minimal amount. They still have to pay a certain amount of tax kind of thing for their it's like pay for stay tax for their commissary goods and stuff that they purchase, things like that. And then you have some individuals that have restitution. Well, by the time you pay the tax or by the time you pay your restitution and you're just getting started on a job, they might not have not even $20 or $15 a month. So it's very limited for them to be able to uh, do these Skype, visits with their families and different things like that. So um, it can be taxing. It can be taxing on them till they really get going. And many times they just need help. They just need help doing that. So Sue, that's kind of what my work is and was, and my passion doesn't leave today. I guess I kind of got out of uh, some of it because, my wife and I retiring early. We want to make sure we have our time together, and we bought a place down in Florida, and we moved back and forth. But now down in Florida, we're doing some talks and getting together with some churches down there and kind of spreading the word down there. So anyway,
That's
I'll,
awesome.
I'll put it in your hands, and feel free to ask questions, and you tell me what your thoughts are.
Yeah. Well, I think you've done awesome for so many, 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 many people over the years, and continue to do really, really supportive work for people coming out of prison. Could you say how many apprenticeship programs you created? Could you name the apprenticeship programs that you created?
Oh, phew, I probably not all of them today, but there's some graphic arts printing. There's office work. Um, there's welding. There's drafting, computer, computer programming, computers, that kind of thing. Kitchen, your serve safe and cooking and baking are both apprenticeships programs that were there. We also get into carpentry,
Yes.
electricians,
Hmm.
plumbing, very highly skilled jobs. We've had people get out being electricians and actually were journeyman electrician with their Iowa licenses before they were released and
Yes.
making $54 an hour,
Yes.
doing very well. And um, the collaboration with um, the unions
Hmm.
and of being able to, this individual is not done with the program yet through Iowa Prison Industries. Can they get credited for what they've done, or at least a partial? Because
Yes.
unions have pretty strict ways of doing theirs. And
Hmm.
we would show them the curriculum, kind of things like that, and they would give them credit for that. They even have credit for um, one of the youth lifers were going to college and actually got 29 credit hours based on
Oh,
his apprenticeship program through that. So very, very good there. So yeah, that's it's just a great program for them to get into and get and the skills and just I've heard nothing but very good news from companies that hire individuals. In fact, I don't know if you could see it. I've got I just happened to look up and see this. It's one of my welders at one time in the apprenticeship program. Steve Shuri is his name. Um, Little success story on Steve. I had asked him. He didn't want to be in the program, but I put him in it anyway. And he started it and he fell into it and he did very well. And I told him, he was kind of bragging about his welds. And I said, you go down and you weld out two pop cans together and show me you can do that. And that's to do it. So I've got that in my house today, and you can see how nice and smooth that is.
that's a
There's no
nice
holes
mountain.
in it, paper thin, does very well. So Steve got out, got hired in the union before he was released, worked there, started his own job, kind of working on his own kind of company. He actually became another employee of Iowa Prison Industries at the Newton Correctional Facility at the Holmes Project. So he was an employee as a resident, and he's also got out and was released. 5 years later, he became an employee of Iowa Prison Industries. And since then, he's had job opportunities that have skyrocketed him up in the high 40s as far as doing work. And him and I work together quite a bit today. Uh, we have a chainsaw passion that we work on stuff together. and do that kind of thing. So it's kind of fun. But anyway, so yeah, those are great stories, and there's many, 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 many more like that. So
Yes.
we just hope that that program continues. It hurt the program when these lockdowns happened and we took those things away. I would
Mhm.
encourage the Iowa Department of Corrections to challenge themselves to build that program to the highest level possible, because the incarcerated people that have been out and released have proven, the statistics have proven that it is a highly successful program in helping people. And you need the people in the Department of Corrections to really be passionate about the love to help. And they have them. There's all kinds of people that love to help. There's other people that don't care.
Right.
There's no question about that. I've seen both sides. I've seen all sides.
Yep.
But I would encourage the Department of Corrections to challenge them to increase that U.S. Department of Labor Office of apprenticeship program within the Department of Corrections, and create and build more training opportunities to bring them out in gainful employment for sure. And then COVID-19, you had that hit, and that was uh, that was tough for that was tough for us. That was tough for us citizens out here, and to deal with. But for the men and women that are incarcerated around the world, uh, in our presence in the United States, boy, it's extremely tough for them individuals, because they lost visiting face to face with their family. They lost
Mhm.
so much of their life, and their hope had got
Mhm.
pulled away from them by sitting in a cell and praying to God that they don't get this COVID,
Die.
doesn't spread and die. And, you know,
Mhm.
and what more, as tough as we had it, and in a world that we could walk and get fresh air, they have to be in a 5 by 10, 5 by 8 cell
So,
that's, locked up. And then you have certain cell houses in Anamosa and Mount Pleasant without air conditioning.
right.
Now, I can tell you, Sue, when I was an officer in the early 80s, working in cell house that didn't have air conditioning on a day like today, where the heat
Mhm.
index is going to be
Yes.
199, that cell house walls would sweat.
Right.
Water would run on the floor off the walls,
Mhm.
because it was so hot and so humid that people were going around mopping the floors so it wouldn't be too slippery. And when it gets that hot,
Awful.
unbearable, some people, we talked about the wages before. Some can't afford a fan. Some
Right.
don't have family that will give them money to help them out. So you're
Right.
sitting in those cells that are so small with no air movement, very difficult. Something I would encourage the Department of Corrections to, sooner rather than later. Let's not wait for even the governor's office and that, the legislators. Let's get the money to fix that problem. You know how small of currency that is compared to
Yes.
the big, it's such a
Yes.
small monumental amount to fix that. If it was $10 million, that's a small amount to fix that
Mhm.
and do the humanity that we need to do for our
Yeah.
individuals. So
Yes.
um, we're not sending, I would rather see him sent to prison for rehabilitation than punishment. I don't believe in the world punishment. I believe the punishment is staying away from their families, being locked up, and
Yes.
being under strict rules.
Yes.
And anybody who thinks it's easy doing time in Iowa or anywhere, it's not.
No, it's not.
I've heard the parole board talk to these individuals and say, well, how do we know that you won't break down under stressful situations and you won't victimize because you've been at this level before? or you're
They've
gonna let
been under
somebody
such
stay.
stress in prison.
Oh my
There's
goodness,
no
the
stress
levels,
housing that matches what
the
they've been under.
levels that happen daily of to
They-
stay away from fights, and anyone who gets to that parole board that doesn't have a major report or a write-up for
Mhm,
something, I would say has been very successful in
mhm.
managing their anxiety and stress level and backed into a corner. I
Yep.
would say they're perfectly fine
Yes.
to be able to get out and do that. But anyway,
Yes.
I kind of rambled on, and I guess that's who I am. Sorry about that. But
No, no,
that's
no.
my
I'm glad you
perspective
brought that up.
and the way it looks.
Yeah,
So,
I'm glad you brought that up. And I agree. And Cure has been very vocal about wanting to get air conditioning. You know, we've been promised that.
mhm,
Well, the department has promised, not us personally, but the department has promised to do that air conditioning at Anamosa and Mount Pleasant for years. And they had money set aside. I mean, it just for one reason or another, it seems to just get kicked down the road and never taken care of. Um, and, and, and it's not only the prisoners that suffer, it's the guards that suffer. Like you were
absolutely.
saying, I mean, it's everybody. It's a health hazard. It's a
Yeah.
public health concern as far as I'm concerned.
Mhm,
Um, and especially for older people and people who have any kind of lung problems or breathing problems or whatever, any chronic health condition. So
mhm.
yes, I'm glad you brought that up because that's something that certainly needs adjustment yesterday, in my
Absolutely.
opinion.
And it also changes the mood of an individual.
Well, of course it does.
It changes, you know, when it's super hot and officers are working in those conditions, they might be a little bit shorter on a
Hmm.
response that, hey, I'm just trying to get this done, whatever. Uh,
Hmm.
Same way with the incarcerated individual. The mood changes and they get a little shorter tempered and that kind of
Sure.
thing. So it's not just health. It is mentally, it is
Hmm.
physically, it's everything tied it together. So uh,
Yes.
you know, uh, you're helping incarcerated individuals, you're also helping staff and making life easier on everybody
For
that they
everybody.
can get out of the heat in their job assignments, outside working yard to do all that stuff and get in and be able to cool down. I know I'm a happier person by far. So
We all are. I mean,
yeah,
we all are. It's just
yeah,
human nature. We all
yeah,
are.
yeah.
So. And I also would add, I know you agree with this, I would add that while we talk, you and I talk publicly about helping people get out of prison, neither one of us believe that everybody should just be let out of prison. We believe that there are people who belong in prison. I mean, there are people who really are a danger to society, but that's not the majority of people who are in prison. And I believe, and I think you believe also, that everybody deserves a chance to be heard by the parole board and given the opportunity to present what they have done to rehabilitate. And if they have shown that they deserve a chance to leave and be in society, they should have that, whether they're a lifer or not.
Hmm.
That everybody really deserves the opportunity for the possibility of a second chance. And that's
One,
one of the big things that I advocate for is everybody deserves that. I don't care what you've done. I mean, even Charlie Manson got to go to before the parole board, for heaven's sakes.
hmm.
Of course, he got denied. Nobody would let him out, but he had the opportunity. He had the opportunity to be heard. So that's a big thing that I really, really believe in. Um, and I know you believe that also. So I just wanted to add that before we close.
Yeah, a couple things that I want to add too is one thing I'd really love to see the Department of Corrections in collaboration with the parole board do
Mhm.
is on these commutations. It's pretty obvious that politics plays in every bit of that. Nobody
Mhm.
wants to release anybody and then have them get out and have something happen, even though less than 1% of the people that have been commuted have ever recidivated and went back to prison. Less than 1%. I would like to see a pre-interview team that interviews these lifers for commutation to get a full, complete report. And this team could be made up of prosecutors, lawyers, defendants,
Mhm.
not defendants, but defense lawyers, counselors, past wardens, past staff from the corrections. And so they can go in there and they can really drill down. What did this individual do? What has this individual done? Literally, when they get to that parole hearing and they're a lifer, they have to wait 10 years and they have
Mhm.
to spill out all this stuff, obviously in a cut down, shortened version because they get 20 minutes or whatever it may be, a very, very short time to talk to the parole board, answer their questions. And during that time, the parole board's asking them questions. So they don't get the full 20 minutes. They get a very short amount of time. If you could get a pre-approved or a pre-report from this committee, could be a committee of volunteers. They're just really look into it, go to the prison, get the files, be able to have access to everything, see what that person's doing, talk to the counselor, talk to the workforce,
Mhm.
work person, that the supervisor, and talk to the warden, talk to the staff, really get some information in there to drill down what this individual's done. Because Sue, you know as well as I do, I could pick out more than this handfuls of people that if it was me, I could release today and we would see them be very productive citizens. Very
Well, there's
productive citizens.
27 of them in this book.
Yes. Yes. Just
And this,
just in
and
that book.
that's just the tip of the iceberg.
And there's what, 800
Yeah.
plus in Iowa.
Yeah.
And we know not all of them deserve to get out. And so we'd like to see some criminal justice reform there. But and then the other thing I just want to touch before we go is the people like yourself, Cure, Living Beyond the Bars, um, One City United up in
Mhm.
Cedar, Waterloo,
Mhm.
Momentum program, very successful Momentum program up there. I think they put 86 or almost 90% of their people going through that 6-week program to work, and they're staying out and they're doing very, very well. And they
Mhm.
didn't have those chances and felt the barriers were too big, and they're breaking down those barriers. But there's so many people that get out, and we're talking Cedar Rapids corridor area plus you know just a small area there. uh we there's many other areas, United Way, there's many other things. The workforce development's really heavy in helping. There's so many services in them areas that they go to in all corners of this state that these people need help to find those.
Mhm.
um I would encourage them, that use your use your resources to help you along the way. I always told them knowledge, skills, your education, your learning, uh, your desire to work, and then your integrity, and do it right when no one's looking. Those are the
Right.
four main things that not only are you successful in working, but you're also successful as a person when you kind of follow those rules. And then the reward of helping others, which is a
Yeah.
tremendous reward. A simple thank you from them means more pay than I ever received in my
Mhm.
lifetime in working. So anyway,
Mhm.
that's kind of props to all those the people out there, and then educating that public to help them come in, go to their churches, develop it in their churches and different places. Like I believe Tammy mentioned uh, a mentoring program in the state of Iowa. They do it in other states. It
Right.
works really well. You follow the guidelines, and you're not there to give them money. That's the worst thing you want to do. But the support and help, and just a transportation here and there once in a while on your
Mm-hmm.
dime is just a phone call.
Right,
So anyway,
right.
that's what I have for you today, Sue, and I appreciate your time.
I
And
appreciate yours.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
So
And just a quick plug for Living Beyond the Bars. Mike Cervantes, who I work with the families and the support network, and Mike does the reentry, and he has gone all over the state of Iowa and developed a guide that's called First Stop, that's available on livingbeyondthebars.org, and it is places in each county where a person can go when they're released that has access to jobs and housing and counseling and a variety of other services. And he makes contact with a couple of the prisons counselors and people who are in prison before they return can make contact with Mike through their counselor to get hooked up with these organizations prior to release. So that's a really good thing. And we're having a reentry conference. There will be about 250 different organizations represented, and that's going to be in October. I believe it's October 2nd. So there are people, and they're all nonprofits. They're not Department of Corrections organizations. They're not, and a lot of them are run by returned citizens. So
mhm,
because they know about the barriers. So there are people out here doing a lot of stuff. We just need to get the word out. And
absolutely.
and people who are incarcerated need to have access to that. So that's sort of the goal, and the public needs to know so much about what actually goes on and what the needs are. So thank you very
Yeah,
much, Tim, and thank you for all
yeah.
that you continue to do. It's a pleasure to know you. It really is. I have a lot of respect for you,
Right
and
back at you, Sue. Right
right back
back at you. It's
right back at
extremely
you.
pleasure. So, and thank you for all you do, and thanks for the opportunity. I mean, it's just
Yeah,
it's special that you're spreading the word in the way you are, and hopefully, I would encourage anybody to please go onto this website, YouTube, and watch them all because
yeah,
you get the whole
different
perspective.
perspectives. That's right, and that's the goal. That's the goal.
Cannot wait to listen to the future ones.
Yes,
So
yes.
I
I can't wait
appreciate
to
you.
do them. I can't wait to do the future
Yeah,
ones.
yeah.
So,
So,
okay.
all right.
So, in closing, let me just say that once again, I'm Sue Hutchins, and this is Iowa Prison Perspectives. And we really do want your comments, public information, and public comments. Whether you agree, whether you disagree, if you have questions, if it would please get in touch. And the Gmail is Iowa Prison Perspectives at gmail.com. And that's IA Prison Perspectives at gmail.com. And thank you very much for listening. And I hope to see you again soon. And a special thanks to you, Tim, and to your wife. So I'll say goodbye for now. Take care.
Bye.